Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Madera Spiritual Awareness Center located in the Central Valley of California. Welcome to the show. I hope you're as glad to be here as I am today. And, it's an interesting day. As we look at our world today, there is so much chaos going on. There's so much in the news. There's so much stuff. And to get through your day and to have a level of peace in mind by the time you get to the end of the day has become somewhat of a challenge for many people. So I want to kind of address that today and address what's going on in the world in general, not necessarily specifically, but I want you to think about this. As we create our daily life experience, and in fact we do, and we are the creator of our daily life experience, what we experience in our day is based on what we ultimately believe. And what people, when we say that, oftentimes people don't realize that your reality, if you will, what you believe life to be for you, is based solely and entirely on what you believe. And I've talked to people and they said, well, Rev Steve, I don't know that I really buy into that. I mean, my reality is what I see around me and what the world is and what's going on. And there is an influence out there, but how you experience it and how you create it, if you will, is based entirely on your beliefs. And one of the things that we teach in New Thought, in Science of Mind, Religious Science, is that we have the power to change our experience as we interact with reality. We have the power to create a different kind of life for ourselves when we become aware of the fact that we have that power, and we embody that awareness in the form of a new belief system in such a way that we can demonstrate that power unfolding in our lives. That's kind of a big chunk for some people to bite into if they're not familiar with this type of understanding. If you've had an association, if you will, with some of the Eastern philosophies, that is not necessarily that out of your realm of understanding. But if you are someone that has lived with the traditional Western understanding of life and what life is, that may be a new concept for you. So stay with me today, and we're going to talk about this idea of belief and creating reality and your role in that and the role of what we call the divine in that. You know, there is one power, one presence in the universe. Now, whether you want to address that as God because you come from a background that addresses that as God, whether you want to address that by any other name because you come from a belief system that addresses it by some other name, it doesn't make any difference in truth. In truth, there is just one creative force in the universe. Even if you want to believe that that creative force is nothing more than the happenstance of energy unfolding in a way that physicists understand that, you know, there is not necessarily a single principle or beingness behind the creative force of all that is. However, let's go back to this thing, belief. When we look at this thing that we call belief, we have to understand that our experience with reality is based on our beliefs. When you talk to someone of a differing belief than you, whether it's a spiritual belief or some other kind of belief system that they may have, oftentimes we tend to, when we're talking to that kind of person, we tend to make a judgment on their interaction with us and with the world around them, stating, well, you know, that's just their beliefs, and we kind of tend to just not give it much power and influence. think about this. Your reality is a function and a representation of what it is that you actually believe. And think about this for a minute. What you believe today, at one time, you didn't believe. How do you change beliefs? How do we change our beliefs? How do we even recognize that we may want to change our beliefs? These are questions that have faced philosophers and spiritual thinkers for eons, and it's been addressed in many different ways. Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. Emerson said, as a man thinketh all day long, that's what he is. Marcus Aurelius said that we are what we think about. We find this throughout history. We find it in so many different ways. But what does this mean when we talk about we are what we think about? Well, what we think about, and understand that during a given 24-hour period, those people that study this type of stuff say that we have somewhere between 30,000 and 60,000 thoughts. So there's a lot of thinking going on, even if we're not consciously aware of it. But what we think about all day long is based on how we interact and how we believe our world to be. If we believe our world to be a warm, accepting, and loving world, if we believe our world is a world of opportunity that awaits our activity within that, then we tend to experience a warm, loving, and successful interaction with the world. We tend to experience much good unfolding in our lives. If we believe that the world is harsh, if we believe that we have to struggle, and oftentimes it's an interesting thing that some people that are very successful people believe that they have to struggle to be successful, and so they struggle a lot so that they can experience that success, and they do. And there's people that believe that life is not worth the struggle on that level, that we just be at peace with it, and we live at a certain level of harmony within our world, and we see that they live at that level of harmony. However we choose to see our world is based on how we believe our world to be. Now, with all the stuff going on today, I mean, we've got stuff in the world, we've got stuff in the national world, we've got stuff in the local world, and if you break it all down, we come down to one word, and that's chaos. You know, it makes no difference where you are in your belief system, whether you're on one side of the coin or the other side of the coin. It makes no difference how you see the world as being threatening to, where you're at, or whether it is neutral, or whether it encourages where you're at. All this is based on your belief. That's how you experience your reality. And the thing is that you can change your belief. You have that power, but you have to first know that you have that power. And until you get to that point, basically we live in what we generally refer to as a consciousness of ignorance. Not ignorance as a negative thing, but ignorance of just not being aware that there's something more out there. It's like if these smartphones and computers that are out there today that have so many incredible functions, and if you're not aware of all the different functions that they have, you can have one of these phones and basically you use it for texting, phone calls, and taking pictures. And yet it connects you with the internet, it connects you with so many other things, it can map out where you are, it's a GPS, all these things are there. The potential is there, but your ability to use them is blocked by the mere fact that you don't know. And you just don't know. And so as a result, it's just as if it wasn't there. And that's the way it is with our interaction, if you will, with that which we understand we call principle or God or first cause or source, that there is a power available to you when you know that there's a power available to you. But in that knowing, it has to be a knowing based on a level of belief and receptivity. So for someone that comes to a point that they decide that they want to experience spirituality in their life, that they want to experience goodness in their life, but they don't see a value in dogma. They don't see a value in what I oftentimes refer to as old thought, but they believe that there is a spiritualness, a spiritual energy of such, and they want to participate in that, then they can. And they can do that through altering their belief systems. And it's a path, it's a journey. We call it self-realization or self-discovery, and it's available to each and every one of us when we open ourselves up to it. but it's not necessarily easy oftentimes as we start that path. So, in the beginning, as we decide that we're going to acquaint ourselves with something different, we have to first kind of look at what we define the divine to be. Do we see God as this being that sits on a gold throne or a throne somewhere out there that is separate from us? And if that's your understanding, and if that's your belief of what the divine is, then that's where you have to start. My question to you, if that is your belief system, is if God is infinite, what place or space where you can go that you cannot experience God at some level? If you believe that God is infinite in its beingness, then you have to understand that God is available right where you're at right now, which means when you turn within yourself to work with your spiritual growth, your spirituality, you're turning to God, which is within you. And truly, that's where you do make your communication with God. And there is something there that will respond at the level that you open yourself up to and accept that response. And that opening yourself up to and that acceptance is based on your ability to believe. And so we look there to begin our journey, so to speak. It is done unto us as we believe. As we think all day long, so we are. There was a fellow by the name of Viktor Frankl, and he's no longer with us, but he experienced some of the extreme horrors of the German Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust in Germany. And he was a doctor, a psychologist, and he survived. And as he survived through tremendous horrors, he began taking notes. He began documenting what was going on. He felt that this experience was so important that mankind should never, ever forget it, and there are lessons to be learned from this. And he wrote a book, and the book is entitled, if I remember correctly, Man's Search for Meaning, and I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. But in this book and in his understanding, one of the things that Dr. Frankl discovered was that no matter where we are, no matter how bad the conditions are, no matter what's going on, we have the ability within us to be at peace and to be happy. And in that dark and most incredible horror that was found within the German concentration camps, he discovered that those individuals that kept an optimistic consciousness, an optimistic outlook, those were the individuals that seemingly survived. And the ones that allowed themselves to be lost into depression and fear and worry, etc., those were the ones that failed, and ultimately they died. So taking that as our starting point, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to start with this understanding of fear, our belief system, and we're going to unfold that as we go on. So I'll see you when we come back.
Sal Contreras of JC's Lawn Service is the go-to guy for all your lawn care and landscaping needs. Just call Sal at 559-978-7730.
Hi, Haven Young here. Join Mike Briggs and myself here at Central Valley Talk at 1212 North Van Ness the second and fourth Saturdays in June 11th and June 25th at Central Valley Talk, and find out more about the most nutritious plant on earth, Moringa oleifera, and we're going to be giving away a 6-day sample pack to someone that attends, and find out more about Moringa oleifera at our website, mostnutritiousPlant.com. Don't forget the hyphens in between. See you here, have some fun. Come on and find out about Moringa oleifera. It'll change your life.
Need a dentist? Call Dr. David Wright at 559-222-6213 or visit bitemedental.com.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in the Central Valley of California in the city of Madera presently. So as we went to the break, we were talking about fear understanding that people that have optimistic, basic beliefs have a greater ability to survive through harrowing conditions, and we're going to move forward with that. There is something within our anatomy of our brain that is called the fear mechanism. And years ago, science didn't know much about it, but today, through the advent of functional MRI, we're able to look into the brain and actually see the processes as they're unfolding. And what science has found out, neuroanatomists have found out that within the brain itself, this fear mechanism, and fear mechanism isn't really a good name for it. Let's call it our interactive receptor to the outside world. Because it does so much more than just create a fear response within us. Although that is one of the major functions of it. Evolutionarily, those individuals that had the ability to recognize things to be afraid of and take proper action, they survived. Those that didn't, their genes left the gene pool. But today we're left with this mechanism that takes direct input from our vision and from our hearing. It takes input from our other senses too, but most importantly from our vision and from our hearing, and it makes an almost instantaneous evaluation of what's going on around us. Is that a threat? Is it a friend? Is it a foe? Do we need to run? Should we fight? And it takes and makes within the body various physiological reactions that if they're not allowed to run their course, can have detrimental effects on the body. And we call this oftentimes stress. And stress, there's so many stress-related diseases out there, high blood pressure and strokes and on and on and on. And they're all directly related to this mechanism within us. And the thing is that this mechanism has been basically our master for eons. But we've learned, and science has told us, and spirituality has shown us over the years, that we can alter how this affects our lives. That we do not have to be a slave to the mastery of this fear mechanism, but we can make it subject to our consciousness, subject to our way of interacting with the world. So you've heard it possibly through things like the power of positive thinking, and there's various books that have been written about this over the years. There's people that have talked about it that are not necessarily a part of a spiritual philosophy, but it has proven out that people that utilize certain modes, methods, and ways of using their mind experience their life in a much more upbeat and more positive way. And if this is something that anyone can do, or one person can do, anybody can do it when they do the same thing. And that is the power of positive thinking. That is the power of understanding that there is a power available to you when you learn how to embody and use that power. And it all takes place between our ears. It's not something that we can go to the store and buy. It's not in a pill form. It's not something that somebody else does for us. It's something that we have to do for ourselves. But it is so interwoven and so tied in to our belief system that is where we have to start. That our interaction with the world, if we have a foundation that the world works for us, that the world is conspiring for our greater good versus the world is coming at us and we have a lot to be afraid of, for example. It will change entirely how we experience the world and entirely how the world will unfold for us. There are things that respond. There is something that we call the law that responds to our thought. And that works basically as a cause and effect type of process. And so as we begin to think harmonious, as we begin to think good, as we begin to think abundant types of thoughts, the law responds to that. It responds to it within ourselves. It responds to it in how we relate and react with the world, but it also responds to things in the world and how they react and relate back to us. On the most simple and basic level, imagine, if you will, that you're in a room and you're in a really good mood and you're just not paying much attention. You're not necessarily clued into this power of belief, if you will, and somebody walks through the door, and maybe it's somebody that you know, somebody you've had a relationship with, and you can tell instantaneously they hit that door, and they're angry, or they're upset, or they're depressed, and there's an energy, if you will, that seems to flow through that room, and it affects you in such a way that it can bring you down. Now let's take that same scenario, but only now you have an understanding of the power within you and the ability to control how you react and how you respond to things, and that you can always be at peace no matter what's going on around you, that you can always be in harmony no matter what's going on around you. And that same individual walks through the door, and their anger or their depression or whatever that they bring with them, you can recognize that, but you will not necessarily be, matter of fact, you won't be influenced by it. You can be there to support them. You can be there actually to serve them in so many ways to help uplift or change their attitudes. But when you're finished interacting with them, you don't leave that interaction with a thought like, boy, my life has just really gotten heavy all of a sudden, and I don't even know why. And that happens so often. Or we watch the news, and all the stuff that's going on in the news in the world today. There's stuff going on. There's protests going on. There's things going on with one country versus another country, and you turn the news off and you go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And it seems like your whole world is just controlled and run by the chaos and things going on outside of you. And that feeds this fear mechanism that we outlined a little bit earlier, that is your interaction with the outside world if you are not in a state of mastering it, if you allow it, if you will, to be your master. And the news is bad, and everything seems to be bad, and your life is tough, and it's just negative, 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 negative. Now let's go back to that same scenario. The news comes on, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff, and you got the TV and the radio and the newspaper and your neighbor, and they're all telling you, but you have a different outlook to the world. The world you experience, regardless of what's going on, has a level of harmony within it, has a level of peace within it, has a level of productiveness and abundance within it that you may not notice in the rest of the world. But it's not a influence that you accept as being your reality. And this is based in your belief. As you believe, it is done unto you. And you can change your belief from a belief system that holds that there is limitation and lack and chaos to a belief system that holds that there is peace and harmony, that the life itself is meant to be experienced abundantly and not meant to be suffered through. But that's not what society tells us. And for most of us, that's not the way we grew up. And for many people in their spiritual lives, that's not the message that they've heard. What they've heard is that you're here to struggle, you're here to strive and to be beat down, and you're never to expect anything better than the state that you're in. And that's just not true. We've seen too many examples throughout history of people that have taken a different perspective. And it starts again with our belief system. So, you say, well, Rev Steve, I believe in possibility thinking. I believe in abundance in my life. I believe in success, and I believe in all this good stuff. And I say, okay, well, let's take a look at your life. If you're not experiencing a life of harmony, but you tell me you believe it, if you're not experiencing a life of success, but you tell me you believe it, if you're not experiencing a life of positive relationships, but you tell me you believe in all this, then there is some kind of discord or disconnect. There's an incongruity. And why is that so? And the truth is because although you may have intellectualized the concept of positive thinking, at the subjective level, the deeper part of your mind, you don't believe it. And that's where we begin to look at how we create our own reality. Because it's in those deeper levels of belief is where we hold to the things that either bind us or free us in our day-to-day life. So how do we find out? Because they're there, and oftentimes we don't even know they're there. We're not aware that we hold beliefs that limit us. We're not aware that we hold beliefs that bind us. One of the very simplest types of tools that I teach people to use is to sit down with a big piece of paper line paper works. And on one side, what you do is, over here, you write something that's going on in your life. Something like, let's say, I don't seem to be able to have a positive relationship with your spouse or your partner or whatever, or you're always struggling to get by financially. So that's what you write on the left side of the page. Directly opposite, on the right side of the page, I want you to write down, what do I have to believe for this to be true? Well, if we go to, I'm having trouble in my relationships with my wife, my kids, my partner or whatever, then what do I have to believe to be true? What I have to believe for that to be true is that life is meant for me to have difficulty in dealing in relationships with people that are near and dear to me. Now, you say, well, that happens. Life happens. Let's stop and think about this for a minute. If, as I propose, as I teach, that there is an infinite God, if, as I propose and I teach, that this God is everywhere, God is around us, God is through us, and God demonstrates as us. And if, as I teach, that this God is a God of love, of good, of peace and harmony, there's a certain incongruity between what I believe to be true over here and what I'm experiencing here and what God is, what I say God is, what I say I believe God is. If I believe God to be good, if I believe God to be love, peace, harmony, and abundance, if I believe God to be joy and beauty, then where is it in my life that God vacates this space so that I can experience this particular, what I'll call a negative situation? And the truth is, there is no place and no space where God is not, where I shouldn't be able to experience that goodness, but I'm not experiencing that goodness because I have embodied at a deeper level a belief that says I believe in these various things. And as we believe, it is done unto us, because it's a real interesting little thing that God always does for us as we believe. I mean, we hear this through the teachings of Jesus. We hear it through the teachings of ancient sages. We hear it and we see it and read it going back beyond the early annals of the history of humanity, that's done unto us as we believe. And so we've got to change that belief. Got to know that we have that belief before we can change it, if it's a deeper belief. And that's what this little exercise helps us do. So, okay, if I believe this, and I've discovered that I believe it because I see this demonstrating in my life, how do I change a belief? Can I change a belief to change my reality? And when I say our reality, if you're living that life experience where you're struggling in relationship, if you're living that life experience where you're struggling financially, that's your reality. Look around you and you see struggle, you see lack, limitation. You go, that's what life is. And I'm here to tell you that life doesn't have to be that way, that you don't have to experience that in your life, but you've got to first understand that that's what you believe that you have to experience before you can move out of that to something else. So it looks like we're getting ready for our next commercial break, and when we get back, we'll pick up from there and we'll move forward. See you then.
Realtor Letty Pinjatori is a broker associate with Keller Williams, and she is also a voiceover artist. Contact Letty at 559-281-4568.
I was an addict, an opiate addict.
Being 3 years clean in October.
I was renewed at the Fresno Rescue Mission. My mom, who does a lot of cooking, has been part of the rescue mission, has been willing to help teach people to make jams and jellies and other food.
Sa the Fresno Rescue Mission, do tôi có học lử trong thia giờ ilu yang nhà trong giờ để có bá tàu pe bá tàu có thia ở trong đó.
And I believe that downtown Fresno needs a renewal as well.
Tree of Life Cafe represents new, healthy growth in downtown Fresno. I've seen men and women go through rehab programs. They want to start a new life. And yet when they get out on the street, they find it very difficult to get a job. Nobody will give them a chance. That's what this cafe is designed to do.
You will be like family to us. We will serve you our home-cooked food made with farm-fresh produce that comes from farmers right here in our valley.
We love downtown Fresno.
Pasture-grazed, delicious, nutrient-dense, 100% organic raw milk from Organic Pastures. Visit organicpastures.com or call 1-877-RAW-MILK.
Sunshine Natural Health in Tulare, California is your source for nature's best remedies. Call Sunshine Natural Health at 559-688-2063 and get healthy.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, welcome back. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in the Central Valley of California. I hope you've been enjoying the shows. We've been talking about our beliefs and the reality that we create for ourselves. And so, when we take a look, and we've seen that we've done a little work, we've figured out some of our beliefs, and don't try to necessarily take them all on at once, if you will. Just work with one or two at the most. And when you realize that you hold a certain belief that has bound you, that has held you limited in some sort of way, you begin to work on that. If it's a belief, and if that's your reality, and you look around you and you see that as your reality, can you believe that you can change that reality? And that becomes the question. Oftentimes, as people embark on this path, as a spiritual path, or even just as a secular path to create a better life for themselves, they build a level of enthusiasm. They get it in their mind. Maybe they've read some self-help books, or they've read the Science of Mind book, or some of the early New Thought authors, and they get really excited, and they're going to move forward. They're going to create this whole new life for themselves, and life goes on, and it really doesn't change. And so they begin to think, well, maybe this just doesn't work. Well, it does work, but it requires work on our part. It requires that we change our beliefs. And again, I want to go back to a very important basic understanding, and that is everything we believe today we didn't believe at one time. And when you understand that, then you can open yourself up to the understanding that if I didn't believe this at one time, and this is now my belief, I can change that belief. I can change that belief, and as I change that belief, I change my reality. I change my relationship to the reality that I experience. So, how do we do that? Well, it is a process. It's a process that starts, for most of us, by just allowing ourselves to accept the possibility of maybe a little bit more of a particular, wherever it is at that you're at in your life at this time, that you can accept a little more good today than you experienced yesterday. Wow, that could be tough. Well, it can, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, but what it does necessarily have to be is it has to be consistent, and we have to continue to do it. It's not something that you can do today, skip tomorrow, do maybe the day after, and then skip 2 or 3 days or whatever, because in a sense, beliefs are like habits. And just like we can change habits, we can change our beliefs, but we have to work at it. And one of the basic tools that I tell people, it's a real simple little process, but it starts with taking time daily and meditating, and taking time and studying a little bit. Taking time to work on your faith, and through your faith, you'll be changing your beliefs, and doing it with a constant commitment to challenge yourself for change in your life. And I have seen lives change dramatically of people that have experienced so much poverty or unhappiness in their life, but by the simple fact of just daily making a commitment to create change in your life. through a little bit of meditation. We're not talking, hours and hours a day. I'm talking about taking time, a little bit of time each day, and just meditating on the good, meditating on God, if you will, meditating on a greater reality, meditating on being able to experience just a little bit more betterment in your life today than you did yesterday. Maybe spending a little time reading some books that are either spiritually uplifting or maybe that give you greater insight into how the mind works. And through understanding how the mind works, you see the processes that take place so that you can create a better mindset to create a better reality. And the key to all this is the daily commitment to change. There is an organization that puts out one of these little wristbands, and it's called Complaint Free World. You can look it up on the internet. You can Google it and you'll find this thing. And if nothing else, that's a great place to start. You can get a hold of them, and for a minimum amount, they will send you several of these little bands. And the basis is you put this band on your wrist, and every time you complain, you have to take the band off and put it on the other wrist. And you do this back and forth. The goal is to go 21 days without complaining. If you get to 19 days complaint-free and you complain, the 21 days start all over again. It's a powerful, powerful habit-changing tool. But by just the mere fact of changing how you interact in the world, by eliminating complaints from your day-to-day, moment-to-moment life, that very basic, simple thing you'll be amazed at what unfolds in your life. There's nothing mystical about it. There's nothing it makes no difference what your personal belief system is. You don't have to change your belief. You don't have to give up your belief. You don't have to give up participating with the individuals that believe a particular religious style. That's not the point. The point is you're just working on giving up complaints. You're retraining your mind, you're retraining your brain, if you will, to an understanding that you can create a belief system that doesn't require complaints. And there's so many other things that change when you do this. How to live in a complaint-free world is phenomenal. And so, that's one way that you can start. Again, like I say, you can take time daily. Finding time to find a little bit of peace, go within and just allow your mind to settle. Allow the chaos to settle out. And know, and work on knowing even more, that you can change your belief, that whatever this negative thing is in your particular life that you're experiencing today, you don't have to live with it. You can give it up by giving up the belief in it. It's amazing. Now, that doesn't mean that certain physical things that are taking place in your life are going to magically change. It doesn't work that way. But your ability to deal with them and your mindset as you deal with them, that will change, which changes your entire experience and possibly can move you out entirely from that. Sometimes it won't, but whether it moves you out from it or not, how you relate to the world is going to change, and your world ultimately will change, regardless of what's going on around you. So how much of this change can we make for ourselves? How much can we do? Well, we can do as much as we believe that we can do. Think about it. As we believe, it's done unto us. That power within you, the power of belief and the power of choice, those are the two things that you have that no one else can do for you or to you. You can believe in good and you can choose. You make the choice to believe in good, and then you commit to it. You make the choice to believe in abundance. You make the choice to believe that there is a divine presence that responds to you as you make yourself available to it, as you open your receptivity to the good that's already there, as you open yourself up to the idea that there is a greater good, a greater energy, a greater abundance, and a greater life that can be experienced, that you're here in this life, you're here in this world to experience and to express optimally, maximally, that you are given certain gifts and powers, intellectual gifts, physical gifts, spiritual gifts that are there, that are in the potential form They are there waiting for you to discover them. They're there waiting for you to utilize them. They're there waiting for you to put them into use in your life so that you can experience the expression moment by moment. And as you begin to do this and you begin to see it unfold in your life, then you can use that as an acceptance of the what is being what is and being ever greater. And it's incrementally, step by step, little by little, we move ever upward on our spiritual path. And as we do this, life changes. And oftentimes, people won't even realize the amount of change that has taken place in their life until they stop and they look back to where they used to be. Until they stop and look back and see that at one time life was a struggle and now life is a joy. When they look back, that they see that, I had to worry about this, that, and the other, and now I don't worry about those things. And you see, the thing is, as we experience, and I'm going to go back to this thing we call fear, which is, fear is a belief system also. There's the fear mechanism, which is the mechanism with which we interact with the world. But there's that fear that we hold within ourselves. That fear is nothing more than a belief in itself. Everything that you have been afraid of in your life that you've had to deal with, everything that you saw coming down the pike, so to speak, you saw coming toward you in your life that you had great fear over. As you sit here today, as you watch this show today, you have transcended all of that has been in the past, and yet you're here, aren't you? You survived that, didn't you? Well, what's the difference between now and then? The only difference is that you had a belief that which you didn't want to have happen was going to happen in such a way that your belief told you that you were going to suffer. Well, whether you suffered or not, it's not important. You survived it. If you know that you're going to survive, then you don't necessarily have to have that expectation of suffering. If you don't have that expectation of suffering, you can have an expectation of transcending. If you have an expectation of transcending, then you can have an expectation of overcoming. And if you have an expectation of overcoming, problems are no longer problems, but they're opportunities to open a door to something greater, to a greater good. One of the things that I learned early on was there is no such thing as failure except when we choose to give up. There's no individual that has met great success in their lives that hasn't failed many times over on their journey to that success. But they've used those so-called failures as learning opportunities, things that they don't do now so that they can do what they do now to experience a greater and more abundant life. There's a great story that was told about Thomas Edison as he was working to create the electric light bulb. And he tried some 1,000 times different ways and failed. And someone pointed this out to him and said, Mr. Edison, that you failed all these times. And Edison said, no, I didn't fail. I just found 1,000 different ways not to make a light bulb. But ultimately, by consistently challenging himself to change and move forward, he got to his goal, and he created that light bulb, and that light bulb changed the world. It changed the entire world. One little invention. As we change ourselves, one little change in belief, and when we recognize that we have the power to change our beliefs, it's incredible. The lights go on, if you will, and our worlds change. When we realize that we can change our beliefs and that by changing our beliefs, we change a reality that we experience that we think is real, and in truth, it's not really real. It's just the experience that we're experiencing. We can change that. So if you're in your life today, if you're struggling in a relationship, if you're struggling in a job, if you're struggling with your health, know that you can and you have the ability to change where you're at. You have the ability to change your experience. You have that power. There is a power within you for good that is available to you as you open yourself up and receive the good in that power. That's the power of what we teach in New Thought. That's the power of what we teach in this philosophy that we call Science of Mind. And what Science of Mind is taking what we are learning in science and combining it with what we have an understanding of the spiritual reality of the truth of who we are. And using those two things not in opposing forces, not in opposition to one another, but as a co-partner in understanding the truth of the experience that we have in this thing that we call life. And it is amazing when we open ourselves up to it. It's amazing when you open yourself up to it. If you don't have a lot of confidence, if you have a lot of doubt, it's okay. Start right where you're at. And just like I say, figure out what you believe. One belief. You begin to work on that one belief. Work at it every day, and you can change it. And when you see that that belief has changed, then you can work on more beliefs. The more successful you are, the more successful you will be. And that's the power that is within you, unfolding as you in this time and place. So we're going to shift away here to our last commercial break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Clovis Bicycle is located at Bullard, Minnewawa, and Clovis near Dollar General. Featuring kids' bikes, cruisers, road or mountain bikes, and now featuring a selection of recumbent bikes. Check them out at clovisbicycle.com or call 325-2453.
Hi, Haven Young here. Join Mike Briggs and myself here at Central Valley Talk at 1212 North Van Ness the second and fourth Saturdays in June 11th and June 25th at Central Valley Talk, and find out more about the most nutritious plant on earth, Moringa oleifera, and we're going to be giving away a 6-day sample pack to someone that attends. And find out more about Moringa oleifera at our website, mostnutritiousPlant.com. Don't forget the hyphens in between. See you here. Have some fun. Come on and find out about Moringa oleifera. It'll change your life.
Give your home and yard a facelift with Olivas Landscaping. Olivas Landscaping can make a tired yard look fresh again. Whether you need one-time or recurring service, repair, or a whole new design, contact Olivas Landscaping. Call Patrick Olivas at 273-0142.
Realtor Letty Pinjatori is a broker associate with Keller Williams, and she is also a voiceover artist. Contact Letty at 559-281-4568.
Need raisins? Call National Raisin Company at 559-834-5981 or online at nationalraisin.com.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and I hope you got some good information as we've talked about belief, about taking control over that thing we call fear within our lives, and about allowing a greater good to unfold in our lives. You know, it's amazing. Life was meant to be lived maximally, that God has created us so that we can experience and express all the good that is available to us, and all the good that is available to us is a potential waiting for us to open ourselves up to it. How much good can we experience? As much good as we're willing to believe. How much can we be willing to believe? As much as we choose to consciously pursue in our belief. It is a process. It is a journey. There are some people that will pick it up greater than others, faster than others. There's some people that have a basic inherent knowingness, and we see them as they express life. And sometimes we see them express life in one aspect, one way of life, where they're very successful, but in all other ways of life, in their life, maybe they're experiencing unhappiness. And it doesn't need to be so. We can experience goodness and abundance in all areas of our life when we open ourselves up to it. But if, as most of us, we experience life as we've been taught to experience life, it's a struggle. There's a lot of lack, a lot of limitation, and the door doesn't seem to be open. And yet, the truth is, there really isn't a door there at all. that we are standing on a line, if you will, an imaginary line that is drawn in the sand in front of us, that somehow we have turned into a wall that we can't see our way through, and yet all we have to do is take that first step within ourselves. It's amazing. It's really amazing when we do it. It's amazing to watch it unfold in people's lives. It's amazing to see how people, as they learn to express a greater good, a greater God in their life changes. Their life changes in so many different ways. And as each and every one of us make that a precedent within our lives, or an importance within our lives to create that change, we create the world in a different way. We create a better world, a more peaceful world, a more harmonious world, a more joyous world. Yes, as I started the show today, and I mentioned various times throughout the show, what we see in the world around us today is so much chaos. But it's chaos created by people that believe in limitation. It's chaos by people that believe in lack. It's chaos created by people that have been taught that they are not as good as, they don't have enough of, that there's something that's holding them back, that they can't achieve, that they can't make better for themselves. And that's not true. But it's what they believe, and because that's what they believe, that becomes their truth, and it becomes their reality. And the truth is, you don't have to experience that. You don't have to create that you can create a better good and a better reality for yourself. And if you have any questions, the banner at the bottom of the screen is my personal email that you can email me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. One of the tools that I teach people to use is daily journaling. And if you have some interest in daily journaling, there is a book that actually there's 12 books that you can find on Amazon under the title The Wit and Wisdom of Reverend Steve Walling. You look up my name on Amazon, the books are there, and they're one book for each month. And in each day of each month, you will find a daily quote that I've taken from some New Thought author, and then my commentary on that quote. And you'll find that on the left side of the page. And then on the right side of the page, there's an affirmation for that particular day. And if you'll take that affirmation for that day and utilize it as a statement that you say over and over to yourself throughout the day. And then as you read these things and you read this affirmation, there's a space down below for you to write in your thoughts. You know, the thing is that this is not magic. There's nothing magical about doing it. But the magic is in the doing it. And so if you take, whether you take the book, one of the books that I've written, or whether you just choose to journal on your own, again, it's the daily commitment, the consistency of doing it over and over again. Take time each day. Think of 6 things that you're grateful for in this day and write them down. That's it. Just, I'm grateful for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll be amazed how the mind begins to see and seek out all the things that you experience in your life that you can be grateful for, that you should be grateful for. And as you begin to understand, I've got so many things in my life to be grateful for, obviously I have an abundance of things to be grateful for. Obviously then there's an abundance of good in my life. And we begin to shift our outlook. Life no longer is threatening. Life is no longer chaotic. Life becomes something that we can look forward to with an expectation of good. So you've got, like I say, you've got books. There's other books. You can go to newthoughtlibrary.com, and there's books there from New Thought pioneers that can teach you so many good things. You can go to the MadeiraSAC.com, the webpage of the center that I'm the senior minister at, and you'll find a link there prominently displayed where you can make a donation through PayPal to help support the center, help support what we do. It is a powerful, powerful tool that we present here, powerful tool that you can utilize in your life. And I thank you ahead of time for taking the time to support us financially, to support our message, and to incorporate and empower your life when you do it. It's amazing what happens. I can't tell you I don't have time to tell you the stories of from healings to people that have experienced goodness and abundance and relationships that have come out, relationships that have been changed by people that just take the time to commit to themselves in a process of self-realizing the good that they are. So I thank you for being with us today. I thank you for being part of the show. I thank you for what you do to support us. And remember, as you go through your week, that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, and the power of God protects you. Because truly, no matter where you are, God is there. All is well. Have a great week. I'll see you when we come back. And again, you can email me with any questions you might have during the week. I'm more than happy to respond. Take care. Blessings. So long.
Here at Central Valley Talk, we've chosen Select Business Systems to provide for our copy, print, and scanning needs. We used to think it was cheaper to purchase our own toner and maintain our own office equipment. But now, with the expertise and experience of Select Business Systems, our office workflow is running at peak performance, saving our company time and money. They've truly set us up with our new Sharp multifunction copier, streamlining our office with the press of a button. To find out how you can improve your office technology, call Select Business Systems at 446-0123 or visit their website at selectsharp.com.
This segment was brought to you by Pro Travel Network Fresno. For all your vacationing planning, call Jennifer Rogers at 559-317-6735.
Hi, Haven Young here. Join Mike Briggs and myself here at Central Valley Talk at 1212 North Van Ness, the second and fourth Saturdays in June 11th and June 25th at Central Valley Talk, and find out more about the most nutritious plant on earth, Moringa oleifera, and we're going to be giving away a 6-day sample pack to someone that attends, and find out more about Moringa oleifera at our website, mostnutritiousPlant.com. Don't forget the hyphens in between. See you here. Have some fun. Come on and find out about Moringa oleifera. It'll change your life.
CentralValleyTalk.com